Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Vishakha Vinze, and I'm really happy to be hosting this session today that is how to integrate with EHR, a developer's playbook. It's something we have seen a growing interest in lately, and today's session is designed to give you a hands on understanding on how EHR integration actually works. Before we dive in, let me take a quick moment to introduce Mindbrowser. We are a health technology based consulting organization building custom software solutions for clinicians. We have been this in the industry for over 13 years now, and having said that, we have built various healthcare accelerators that are solving real life challenges for nurse practitioners and frontline care providers. Today, we'll be giving you a live demonstration on our appointment app with Cerner-integration. And on the screen right now, you can also see our partnership ecosystem where we have strategically listed a few of our customers. Here is a quick look at what we'll be covering today. We'll start with the introduction and context, moving on to understanding EHR systems and integration standards, and then walk through the developer's playbook on how to approach integration. We'll also discuss common developer challenges and go through a live demo. And now, let me get you introduced to our panelists for today. Joining us today is our expert healthcare integration specialist, Rohan Kadam, and FHIR and interoperability expert, Abhishek Sangpal. Rohan, will you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, Vishaka, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Rohan Kadam and I'm currently working as a healthcare integration specialist at Mindbrowser. I am experienced in building healthcare applications with EHR integrations such as Cerner and Epic. I am also experienced in building Smart on Fire application which follows industry level standards such as FHIR and HL7 V2. So that's pretty much about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan. Now, Abhishek, over to you.
Thank you. So, my name is Abhishek Sangpal. Currently, I am working as a FHIR and interoperability expert in Mindbrowser. So, previously, I have worked on HL7, different HL7 versions like V2, and different types of HL7 messages like ADT, ORU, SIU messages. I have also worked on EHR integration and data integration. That's all about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Now, before we proceed ahead, so you will soon see a quick poll on your screens. So it's great to see so many responses in this poll. So I'm ending the poll and sharing the results with you. So we can see 43% has tapped on accessing vendor APIs. Rohan, would you have any insights on this?
Yes, so first of all, it's good to see that all of you answered the poll. And as I can see that most of you guys are having problem with accessing vendor APIs. So don't worry, I'll be talking about in later in this session. So please watch this session till the very end. So let's now talk about EHR integrations. So the first question is why EHR integration matters. So EHR integration is basically a foundation of connected healthcare system. So it basically combines multiple systems all together, such as hospitals, labs, clinic, and with the help of EHR, you can share data with each other securely. So the first key benefit of having EHR integration is interoperability. So interoperability ensures that patients' data flow seamlessly between the systems. So it doesn't matter what kind of system the other hospital is using, you'll still be able to access and retrieve data from the hospitals. The second key benefit is patient safety. So EHR will provide you with accurate and up-to-date data. So, providers can focus more on the patient rather than collecting appropriate data. The third one is reducing manual workflow. So as I mentioned earlier, EHR will provide you with up-to-date data, so you don't have to manually feed data into your system. And this not only increases the efficiency of the healthcare system, but it also reduces, any human errors. Okay, so the big question is who needs this? So healthcare startups often need EHR integrations because they want to work with bigger hospitals, national level hospitals, so that they can provide their products, they can offer their value added services, and etc. Digital health apps also rely on integrations because they want to access patients data such as lab reports, prescriptions, vital signs directly from EHR systems, so they can make patient experience more smoother and personalized. So hospitals and insurance can also take great benefit of EHR integrations. So, for example, you have a clinic or you have a hospital, and patient visits your clinic, and you want to quickly verify if the patient has a valid insurance or not. You can do that with the help of EHR. Or you just want to verify if the patient that is visiting has is covered under a specific medication, or is he or she is covered for a specific procedure or not. You can quickly do that with the help of EHR integrations. So let's talk about some of the types of integration. So there are several types of integrations that you can go with while integrating the EHR. So the first one is data exchange. So this involves pulling and pushing structured data like patient demographics, lab reports, allergies, and medication list between the system. So this is type of a data exchange integration. So there is another one which is workflow integration, which connects everyday processes such as scheduling appointments, handling billing, or updating encounter notes. These integrations make clinical operations more efficient and help ensure that the right information reaches the right person at the right time. Last but not the least, which is document sharing. So EHR enables you to exchange files and clinical files securely between the systems. Clinical files such as imaging reports, PDFs, encounter notes, or any clinical note that can be exchanged securely between the systems. So this is all about the introduction and context behind the EHR. So let's understand EHR system in depth. So as we all know what EHR is, it is basically a digital version of patient demographic stored on the cloud, but it is more than that. So basically, it will give you access to clinical data such as diagnostics, medications. It will also give you access to the document references. You can refer document references like PDFs, clinical notes, and etc. So there are types of EHRs available in the market. So Epic and Cerner are the two big players who control healthcare system in the US. So they basically provide almost similar services such as FHIR APIs, Smart and FHIR application support, and the good part is they also come with Sandbox data. So you can play around, fire their APIs, call their patient demographics API. You can play around with it, and you can basically choose which EHR system suits your use case better. So this is the good part of having a sandbox. So Cerner provides you a Millennium program, so you can enroll in that. You can create a developer's account, and you can create an app inside it, and you can use the client ID, and you create a token based authentication, and you can fire their APIs such as patient demographics, as I said. So you can also get access to the document references. You can call list by document, call the list of document references. You can call their put APIs, update API, delete APIs. So these things are also available in EHR systems. So now let's understand some of the integration standards which are really important while working on working with EHR systems. So let's move on to the next slide. So these are some of the important integrations that you need to take care of, and you need to basically have a good understanding of these things while working with EHR integrations such as FHIR. So the first one is FHIR. FHIR stands for Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources. It is basically a standard developed for healthcare. So it basically defines how a patient's data, demographics should be stored, and how it should be retrieved. So there are multiple resources built in FHIR, such as patient, we have encounter, we have appointment, we have procedures, we have document references. These resources define how a particular resources should be stored inside EHR system. So, for example, if you want to store a patient, so FHIR tells that this is the structure that you have to follow in order to make a post request. So it basically tells you that the first name, the last name, the email address, and so on. These things should be stored in this way. So these things are defined inside the FHIR. Then next is HL7 v2. It is also a type of it is also a type of standard developed for healthcare. So here HL7 stands for health level 7. It is basically a text which is divided into multiple segments such as MSH, PID, PV1, EVN, ORU, etc. So these segments defined what kind of data is stored inside it. So let's suppose if we take a segment called PID. So PID stands for patient information detail. So this segment will have all the data related to the patient, basically the patient demographics, first name, last name, gender, and these are located at various indexes. So you need to iterate over the segment, and you need to extract the meaningful data from the segment. In my opinion, HL7v2 is more complex, more difficult to understand as compared with FHIR, because FHIR is very straightforward. It is a JSON object which is defined in form of key value pair, and it is more easier to work with FHIR than working with HL7v2. Then other challenges that we face with HL7v2 is versioning. So as you can see here, I have mentioned here HL7v2X. So X here represents that there could be versions. So it could be 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, so on and so forth. So it is very difficult to manage all the messages, if you are working with multiple EHR vendors. So it can become challenging because it requires a deeper knowledge, what kind of version that you will be receiving, and what part of at what part of the segment you will get the required data. HL7 is in there is one advantage that I'd like to point out here is HL7 is very good for event based updates. So if you want to receive live updates from the hospital, if the patients get admitted or patient get discharged or the patient is being observed by the provider, it is very good for that. So there are several events defined inside HL7v2. So for example, we have ADT, ORU. So ADT basically means that admission, discharge, and transfer. So let's suppose a patient gets admitted into a hospital, then hospital can trigger an event with the HL7 message, and that event will be ADT01, and it will basically tell that this patient was admitted to this hospital, and these are the patient demographics of this patient. So the last one is security. So as we all are working with healthcare software, so it is very important. It is a very important aspect because we want to protect the patient's data at any cost. But luckily, EHR systems comes with mechanism to secure our apps. So we have OAuth 2.0 token with based authentication feature that is provided by Cerner and Epic, that you can use, so that only the valid request, only the authorized requests are entertained, and all other requests are rejected. There is also one concept which is called scoping. So you can basically add scopes to your tenant IDs, such as read scope, write scope. So let's suppose you want to give a read access to a specific tenant, but you do not want to give a write access to them. So that can be achieved with the help of EHR systems. So in Cerner, you can edit your application. You can go inside and basically tick mark and give the access to a particular resource. So let's suppose you want to give read access of document references, but you don't want to give access to be able to write. So you can do that as well. So these are some of the integration standards that you need to take care of while working with EHR integrations. Now let's see a step-by-step guide on how to integrate an EHR into your system. So I'll request Abhishek to carry on with this slide.
Thank you, Rohan. So, like before integrating with EHR, we have to keep a few things in our mind. So, first thing is define the use cases. Defining use cases means we have to gather product or business requirements, because EHR provides lot of administrative and medical data. So we are not going to use all of that data for our app. So that's why we have to define our product goal. Then we can easily achieve that. Sometimes we want to go for, like, we want to do analysis of that data, or we want to train some LLM model. So we won't be needing live data for that purpose. So we might, suppose our goal is not defined, then we might end up calling like few different APIs or few different data sets. That's basically over engineering, and it's waste of resources and time also. So once we define the goal, we can move for the next processes, like creating an app on our vendor services, like creating app on Cerner or Epic. So by creating app, we can, like, it will give us one tenant ID, and using this tenant ID and Sandbox account, we can use their developers, I can say, Sandbox, and we can fetch different APIs from them. We can create our own POC for this purpose. So that's why defining use cases is very important. Second one is check vendor capabilities. Now our business goals are clear, so we need to check, like, does our vendor supports the data we want from EHR. So different vendors support like different types of data, like some support HL7 v2, there are many legacy systems that only supports HL7 v2, some only supports FHIR. And I have worked with one client in past, they used to work on one EMR, so that they used to export data into CSV. So we have to check with our vendor what kind of data they can provide to us. Suppose we want to create one appointment app, from where, like, from EHR we can fetch the appointments using appointments API. So suppose our vendor doesn't support that, so that will be blocker for us. So that's why checking with vendors is really important. So we can, what we can do, we can go through their documentation. And sometimes some EHR don't share documentation with us because they are not publicly available. So what we can do, we can raise some support tickets, or we can connect with their team, and we can discuss our goal and see, like, they are providing data to us or not. So now third one is like authentication and authorization. As we know, because of HIPAA, only authorized person should access the patient data or medication data, different kind of patient data basically. So most of the modern EHR supports OAuth too. Either we are creating embedded app, or either we are creating standalone app. Embedded app means like that app basically opens inside the EHR for particular patient context. We can say that, and standalone app will be a separate app from the EHR, where we can provide some few buttons like login with Cerner or login with Epic. So OAuth will be happen in the background, and we will get access token. Then we can easily access the patient data. Like some, whenever we are connecting with HL7 data pipelines, they might ask us to listen this data, because that is live data, that is event triggered. Whenever event triggers, we get new feed. So whenever we are connecting with HL7 v2 data, they might ask us to connect that data on TCP IP connection. So by using integration engines, we can do that. There are many different kind of integration engines in market, like Iguana, Mirth Connect. Or we want to listen to live feed, what we can do, we can create our custom code to listen that data. So that's their authorization happen over TCP IP protocol. In some cases, like hospitals provide bulk data on SFTP also. So we can access SFTP data using SFTP client, and authorization happens like via secure file transfer protocol. So fourth point is data mapping. So suppose we have one patient app, or then like we might get data from different resources, like we might get data from labs, different kind of EMR or EHRs. So they all might have different type of data standards. Labs might provide us HL7 v2, some EHR will provide us FHIR, or sometimes they will also provide us CDA also. So like if we have a one down system which is talking to us, we need to standardize that data, like whatever data we are coming from pipelines, we have to standardize that data. For that we will be needing data model, so we can create our own data model and store that data into our database. That's how our down systems can talk to us easily. And suppose like we have front end app, or some practitioner wants to edit some data or update some patient on front end app, or he wants to write some notes to that particular patient. So we can't directly send that data to EHR, because EHR will not support that type of format, because each year EHR have like standard format. Some might provide FHIR standards, or some might use HL7 v2 also. That's why data mapping is really important. Now, error handling and retries. So sometimes when we are sending data to the labs or some EHRs, it might error, means some message gets errored or some message may fail. So we need to track down those messages and then we can retry those messages. So how we can do that? We can maintain our own database where like each record will be stored. We can store logs basically. So whenever we are storing the logs, we can track down that particular message. Otherwise we can maintain our SQS pipeline, which SQS queue or DLQ also for monitoring that those messages, and we can write some logic in our code which will retry the polling, and we can retry those sending those messages. But if we are using some kind of integration engine, it will be really easy to track down those errored messages, because integration engines mostly provide dashboards where we can see which message is queued, which message is failed. Then we can again select those messages and reprocess those messages. So that's it all from my side. Now Rohan will talk about one case study. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Abhishek. So now let's understand one case study. So it is basically architecture of a backend system that we built for one of the big hospital in the US. So the requirement was to integrate Epic as a EHR into their backend and receive live updates from Epic directly into their backend server. So the way we approach this, so we created a AWS API gateway. So this API gateway will be connected to the Epic, and Epic will use that API AWS API gateways endpoint and send the live updates to the AWS API gateway. So once the event get triggered from the Epic, so Epic will basically send a HL7 message with the event to the AWS API gateway. Then AWS API gateway will accept the request, and that request will be handled by associated AWS Lambda. So the AWS Lambda will basically authenticate the request first, whether the request was made by Epic or not. And if the request was made by Epic, then it will be forwarded to the SQS, or else it will be rejected with 401 unauthorized status code back to Epic. So we specifically implemented SQS queue here. So we wanted to, store all the messages inside a queue and poll them from our backend system one by one. So we purposely did that because we do not want to lose on any HL7 message or any event that was sent by Epic. We wanted, all the message inside the backend server. Even if our backend server is offline for any reason, we will still be able to poll all the messages when our backend server is up. So the key here is to implement a DLQ. So we also implemented a DLQ here. So DLQ basically means dead letter queue. So it is another queue that will store all the messages that were not processed by our backend system. So let's imagine the AWS Lambda, authenticates the request, and it sends the message to the SQS queue, and our backend server pulls the message, but it is not able to process the message because we wrote a logic in our backend server to pull the messages and extract the information and convert to the FHIR resource and store it inside the database. But for any reason our backend server fails or goes offline and it is not able to process the messages, that messages will be pushed to the DL queue so that we can investigate later. So what went wrong, why did our backend server fail? So we implemented the DL queue. So this overall structure, architecture made sure that the the flow is very robust, so we are not losing on any of the events that were sent by Epic. So we were storing it inside the SQS, and we were pulling the messages from our backend server in the size of 10. So this was implemented for one of the hospitals. So so this is all about the case study. So let's see a FHIR-based appointment app with Cerner integration in action. So I'll request Abhishek to share his screen and walk us through.
Thank you, Rohan. So this is the application we have built for displaying appointments. It have like different features also. Here we have used Cerner Sandbox, and we are using like system to system authentication here. So like our backend system will directly talk to Cerner and get this app authenticated. So whenever we visit the first page, which is appointment page, we can see the all appointments for that particular organization or hospital. So there is like one drop down where we can see the list of doctors available in that doctor, in list of active doctors only. So here is start date and end date. So we can choose date between two dates and get the appointment for that particular doctors. Suppose I'm selecting 11 here and I'm searching. So here we can see the patients and appointments for that particular doctor, means that this doctor, here is the doctor name. So here we have MRN number, patient name, doctor name, then status. There are different types of statuses that HL7 supports, that could be booked or cancelled or no show, etc. So what doctor can do, doctor can write some notes and then directly send to EHR. There are many applications for these things. So our next page is patients. Suppose we want to search some patient from Cerner Sandbox or Cerner's real production account. So what we can do, here we have created this dashboard for that purpose. So here we can see the first name, last name, and patient ID. We can search patient using first name, last name, or patient ID. Suppose I am typing smart here, so it will return me the list of all patient the which name starts with smart. So here we can see that patient, this is just sandbox data we are using for this application. So suppose we want to search using patient ID. So what I can do is I have to enter patient ID here, and then we can search that particular patient. So here is that patient. Again, here is location API we have used from Cerner. So HL7 supports different type of locations. So suppose we want to see how many wards are present in our hospital, and if we click on ward, it will give the list of wards, and these are the names of ward and status, basically it's active or not. And here we can see the ID of that ward also. And then last page is documents page. So I have created one document, I have shared that with Cerner. So whenever we create document on Cerner, it will send us document reference link. So we can use document reference API for this purpose. So whenever Cerner returns us the document, we can see that on this dashboard. Suppose I am here, we need to paste that link, document reference link, and when we click here get document, so it will display us one document. Here we can see the content of document, And whenever we click on show FHIR, here we can see lot of things like resource type is document reference because it's document. Then if we scroll down little bit, we can see the practitioner details, like who is author of this document. Here is practitioner details, like this is the ID and practitioner. And if we again scroll down, we can see the patient name also, like who is patient and where, like, and encounter of patient also and patient name also. So if we go scroll down little bit in content, in content object array, we can see there is one URL which is the actual document which will be in the binary form. So currently we are fetching document from this URL only, but our backend is handling that, like we are converting that binary into real text. So that's all my from my side. Now Rohan will explain some challenges that developer face while integrating with EHR.
Yes, thank you so much, Abhishek, for the demo. So let's talk about some of the common developer challenges that people face while integrating EHR systems. So the first one is variability in FHIR implementation. So different EHR systems implement FHIR slightly different. Some may use, custom fields, or some may use standard fields to store the data. So to solve this, you can create a middleware service that standardizes the incoming FHIR data into your internal data model. So you can basically centralize the overall FHIR implementation according to your need. Second one is handling patient matching and identifiers. So same patient can have different identifiers across the hospitals, such as MRN in one hospital, NPI as identifier in other hospitals. So this might create a problem while fetching the patient. So we need a way to ensure that records refer to the right patient every time. So what we can do is we can implement a master patient index that basically combines multiple identifiers and stores into your database. And with the help of, and you can assign one unique internal patient ID to those identifiers, and you can use that unique identifier to make requests to the different EHR systems. Next challenge that is very common when it comes to working with EHR is rate limits and performance issues. So most of the time what happens is EHR vendor APIs often cap how many requests can be sent, which can cause slow performance and or block the access completely. So to solve this, you can store frequently accessed patient data to into your caching system. So you can basically implement a caching such as Redis is a very good example. So you can implement Redis and store patient data which is being frequently accessed by the providers. So you can just avoid redundant API calls, and it will basically not create load on the server, and you will have the faster API responses. And you can also use asynchronous queues such as SQS, as I talked in our case study back in the slides. So you can also implement SQS, and you can store objects, patient demographics, or any data that are currently want to access to. You can store that into SQS, and you can store those and retrieve those messages as and when required. Next one is dealing with large clinical documents. So clinical documents such as imaging reports, discharge summaries, or scanned PDFs. So it can be larger in size, and it will create a problem while transferring those between the systems, and it will basically slow down your system. So there are several ways to tackle this problem. So I'm just telling you the high level, solution that you can implement while working with large clinical documents, such as you can implement AWS S3. Sorry, you can use a AWS S3, bucket to store the documents inside the bucket, and you can fetch those later whenever required. Or you can use other services such as Azure Blob or there can be other way as Abhishek shown you. So or you can extract key data or structured metadata to display without loading the entire document. You can just load the information which is actually required, and you can skip the parts which are not required at the moment. So these thing ensures that documents open quickly, and they are efficiently, it improves the overall performance of the healthcare app. So these are the some common developer challenges that you might come across while working with EHR integration. So, as we come to the last segment, so to wrap up, successful EHR integration, usually goes beyond just connecting APIs. It actually requires understanding of real clinical workflows. So most of the project use a mix of standards like FHIR, HL7, Smart and FHIR, and the key is to design with workflow mapping and data needs. So you can just start by planning for common challenges like inconsistent data and patient matching, so that we can create integrations that are scalable, repeatable, and not tied to a single vendor. So ultimately this leads to a real time accurate data flow that basically reduces manual workflow and improves the quality of the care. So I hope you all, found this session insightful. So let's move on to the last segment of this session. So please go ahead. Yeah, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. We will try our best to address them.
So, Rohan, we already have a question. So, that is, what are the best practices for handling authentication and authorization when integrating with hospital IT systems?
Okay, so I've talked about this in this session. So I'll quickly give a how to integrate these kind of things into your app. So basically, you can implement OAuth 2, which is which is the more secure way of authenticating your app. So it is a token based authentication. So it also consists scopes as well. So you can give different scopes to the tenants, such as this token can only access the patient demographics, but it cannot access the document references. So these things can be handled with the OAuth 2.0 mechanism. So you can basically implement that.
Okay, so we have another. What are some practical steps to deal with variability in FHIR implementation across vendors like Epic, Cerner, and Athenahealth?
Okay, so it's I cannot simply explain it in words because it is very difficult to do that. But you can do it by standardizing, or you can create a middleware that combines different EHRs together. So there will be variability. I understand that FHIR comes with versionings, and HL7 comes with versioning. So you have to maintain those versions. There is no other way around. So you have to basically implement your system that handles R4 or R3 version of the FHIR, and you have to convert those into the data models that are meaningful to your system. So that's the only way you should go about it.
So we have another one. Someone is asking, can you please explain about the live data mapping?
Okay. I'm not sure what do you mean by live data mapping. I'm assuming that converting a HL7 segments to a FHIR resource. If that's the case, so what you can do is you can extract the segments from the HL7 message, and basically iterate through the segments via indexes. So basically there will be indexes. So if you see the PID, which is patient information details, at index 1, I guess you will get access to the patient's name, so you can access those.
Yes. So there's one more. What's the first step a startup should take when approaching EHR integration?
Right. So, what I think is defining the use case or the workflow should be your first step. So, let's suppose you're a startup that deals with creating a patient's insight app. So this can be your workflow or case. So you can basically fetch the patient demographics, and you can create a patient inside app. So this can be the first step, basically should be your use case that you want to implement.
There is another one. For the master patient record, how do you handle situations where data drifts from one source versus another? They have mentioned an example as well. Someone's name is updated in one system, but their name is not updated in another.
Okay. This I need to take a look at. I am not sure how this could be solved, but I would suggest please drop your email, so I'll do some research on it and I'll get back to you.
So we have another. Shall we use something like Postman for test fire? If yes, how? Is it like is it
Yes,
like the
yes,
rest
yes.
of them?
Yes, definitely. You can use Sandbox data. So there will be APIs available. So if I take example of Cerner EHR, so you can create a developer account, and they will provide you with a client ID and client secret. So you can use those. You can generate the token, and you can basically call their REST APIs. So there are, you can read the documentation. It is very straightforward, and it will help you on firing the Sandbox data.
Oh,
Sandbox data for Cerner, it is a open sandbox, so
Yeah, right.
there will be limited data available. So I'm not sure what kind of test data will be available, but there will be patient. You can fire and query patients' demographics, and you can also get list of practitioners. You can get list of documents. You can also provide query params if you want to make any specific request to the sandbox. You can do that as well.
yes. There is one more. I'm interested in learning about what happens for the data master patient record question. Okay.
I am interested in learning about what happens for the data master patient record question. I'm not sure about this. Maybe we can talk about it later. Please drop your email and we can discuss that.
There is another. You said fire is not the same as RESTful. What is the difference?
Right. So, FHIR is basically standard. So it basically defines it is a JSON object. So let's suppose you want to query a patient from Cerner EHR. So Cerner will tell you how the patient structure will look like. So how the first name, how the last name, email address, and all the thing will look like when you try to query the patient demographics from the Cerner. It is basically a standard. So when you make a REST API call and fetch the patient, so first Cerner will tell you this is the structure of the patient that you will be receiving when you make the RESTful API call. So this is the difference. So this FHIR is basically a standard, so it is more easy to work with.
All right, now. So I think this brings us to the end of today's session. A big thank you to Rohan and Abhishek for sharing their insights, and of course, to all of you for taking time out to join us today. I really hope you found this webinar valuable and got a better understanding about EHR integrations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.